For context, my husband and I have a really bad relationship with his brother, brother-in-law, and brother-in-law's fiancée, F. Husband is very low contact with them and only sees them at family gatherings. I try to maintain no contact and only go to gatherings if told brother-in-law and F are not in attendance. Without getting into too much detail, they're rude to us, used us for financial help in the past, gotten angry at us when we asked for any sort of help later on ourselves, or stopped giving help because we also need our money. And they've also stolen from us. My husband was reluctant to cut brother-in-law out of our lives until he and F had stolen some money from us a few years ago. Brother-in-law and F have never apologized, taken accountability, or repaid any money they'd borrowed and stolen. Husband fully admits he doesn't like them and doesn't entertain their attempts to contact us. I just have them muted, so I don't know if they even try to contact me. Recently, husband and I were at a family dinner at his mom's, mother-in-law, and while I'd been told brother-in-law and F wouldn't be there, they turned up. That's a talk with mother-in-law about boundaries for another day. During dinner, brother-in-law and F had announced that F is pregnant, and during the rest of the time, F kept making comments about needing help from Auntie OP with the baby, and how I need to get over my hang-ups and be a good aunt, and other comments implying I should give them money for the new baby. Brother-in-law was making similar remarks to my husband, and to my husband's credit, he kept saying no. I also kept telling F no. I do not want to be a free babysitter. We have no relationship to speak of. I will not help with this child. If we had a good relationship and they'd thought to ask, then maybe I would help. But that's not the situation. It got to the point where brother-in-law and F said that we owed it to them. And family helps family. I finally had enough and told them, sure, family helps family, but that argument only works when it's an actual two-way road. Neither you nor F have offered any help when others needed it. You only ever demand help. Neither of you will be getting a second of my time or a cent of my money for your baby. You chose to have the baby, you handle it. Don't go assigning people as your personal childcare when you're already on bad terms with them. We left basically immediately after. The family is largely torn on it, and mother-in-law is asking us to reconsider, or at least apologize because they need all the help they can get. Babies are expensive and need a lot of care. I get that, but I don't think it was appropriate of them to essentially demand our time and money for this. I don't know, maybe I overdid it. Edit to update. We had our talk with mother-in-law, and unfortunately, we will be putting mother-in-law in a 6-month timeout, as well as maintaining no contact with brother-in-law and F. She doubled down on us needing to help because we're family, and family helps family without asking anything in return. She thinks of us bringing up the theft as being petty, so we won't be seeing or communicating with her for the duration of her time out. News also hit my husband's uncle, and he's at least on our side and is apparently ripping brother-in-law and mother-in-law, a collective new one, for their audacity. I guess they also approached him about money. Father-in-law is in agreement with us after the talk with mother-in-law and didn't realize that brother-in-law hadn't paid anything back. Last I heard, he's on both brother-in-law and F's case about paying everything they've borrowed and stolen back. It's not the update I was hoping to give, but it's better than it could have been. Thanks everyone for your insight and opinions. It was the reminder we both needed that we owe nothing to these people. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot. Oh, and make sure your husband lets his mother know that if she ever pushes this, she is next. She can use them as comfort. You and your spouse are not responsible for their decisions, financially or otherwise. I would have left the house the second they started that nonsense. Make sure your husband is on the same page. If your mother-in-law is so concerned, she can help them. Same thing with the rest of the family. Burn down the bridge completely. People are always okay with offering other people's financial support. The second they stole, I would have cut them out completely. Comment 2, not the idiot. They made the choice of having a baby, so it's their responsibility. Has mother-in-law tried something like that before? And anyone in the family who says brother-in-law and fiancé need help is free to give them time and money. You are not preventing anyone from doing what they want. You just choose to use your time and money differently. Good luck with mother-in-law. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, it's been a wild couple of weeks since my last post, and let me tell you, things have escalated in ways I never expected. Buckle up, because this update is a doozy. After the fallout at the family dinner, my husband and I were pretty shaken. We thought we'd made our stance clear, but brother-in-law and F had other plans. They started a campaign to win over the family, painting us as the villains for not supporting their soon-to-be family. It was a low blow, especially considering our history with them. Speaking of history, let's rewind a bit. A few years back, brother-in-law and F hit a rough patch and asked us for a loan. We were hesitant, given their track record, but family is family, right? We lent them a significant sum, with the promise of repayment. Fast forward to today, and not a penny has been returned. Instead, they've had the audacity to steal from us on top of that. So, when they started asking for baby support, it was like pouring salt on an open wound. Now, back to the present chaos. Just when we thought we could breathe after putting mother-in-law in timeout, brother-in-law and F showed up at our doorstep unannounced. They had the nerve to ask for money again, this time for baby furniture. My husband, who's usually the calm one, lost it. He reminded them of the money they already owed us and demanded they leave our property immediately. It was a confrontation that left us both rattled but resolute in our decision to maintain no contact. But here's the twist. A few days later, we got a call from father-in-law. He'd been doing some digging and discovered that brother-in-law and F had been lying about their financial situation. They weren't just asking us for money, they'd been siphoning funds from other family members too, all while living quite lavishly. Turns out, they'd been funding their lifestyle with the money they owed us and others, and the baby was just another excuse to milk more funds from the family. Father-in-law was furious, and so were we. He confronted them, and it led to a massive argument where brother-in-law and F finally admitted to their deceit. The family was in shock. Some felt betrayed, others were angry, and a few were just disappointed. It was a mess, and it seemed like our family gatherings would never be the same. In the midst of all this, my husband and I had to deal with our own emotions. We felt vindicated, sure, but also sad that it had come to this. We'd always hoped brother-in-law would turn things around, but it was clear now that he and F were only interested in themselves. The family dynamic has shifted since then. Father-in-law has taken a firm stance and is demanding brother-in-law and F repay everyone they've borrowed from. He's even considering legal action if they don't comply. Mother-in-law is still trying to play peacemaker, but even she can't ignore the facts anymore. She's been quieter, and I think she's starting to see that her attempts to keep the peace were actually enabling their behavior. As for the rest of the family, it's been a mix of support and awkwardness. Some relatives are firmly on our side, while others are still processing everything. It's clear that trust has been broken, and it'll take a long time to rebuild, if ever. And then, just when we thought things couldn't get more complicated, F dropped another bombshell. She's not just expecting one baby, she's having twins. The news spread like wildfire, and the family was abuzz with speculation about how this would change things. Would brother-in-law and F finally step up? Would this be the wake-up call they needed? But for my husband and me, it changed nothing. We've been through too much to go back now. We've decided to focus on our own lives and leave brother-in-law and F to deal with the consequences of their actions. It's not an easy decision, but it's the healthiest one for us. In-laws fund our home and plan to retire in our basement. But when my parents offer free childcare, they object. So we set boundaries until in-laws confess health crisis and need for us. Am I the jerk for letting my parents move into our house that my in-laws paid for? Me, female 28, and my wife, female 29, were lucky enough to receive major help with buying our first house as a wedding gift from my wife's parents. They paid a down payment of 50%, and we pay the monthly mortgage. Her parents are very well off and both make over $250,000 each a year. They do not have to continue to work, but they often travel for a good 8 weeks of the year and in general want to continue to work for a few more years to support their lifestyle. My parents, however, live a more modest life. They can pay for what they need and a lot of what they want and own a house in a small, rural area. My in-laws live a 15-minute drive from where our house is. I am pretty sure part of the down payment gift was to ensure that we remained close to them. My wife and I are expecting our first child together in May and are super excited. We've started to discuss childcare options, and in our city, a spot in a baby room at a legit daycare is almost $2,000 a month. My parents knew about this struggle, and my mother offered to stay and watch our baby once we've run out of maternity leave. Baby will probably be 10 to 11 months. They, however, live over 2 hours from where we are, so I offered them the bedroom and washroom in our finished basement. My father's workplace would actually be a shorter commute from our place than where they live now. So, in this idea, my parents would live in with us, while my mother provides free childcare. This would save us a lot of money and ensure that they have an active role in their grandchild's life. However, when we told my in-laws about it, it was awkward. And then later, my wife came to me telling me that they aren't comfortable with us letting my parents live for free in a house they paid for. She said that they offered to help pay for childcare if that was an issue. I feel as they don't get to have a say in what we do with our house, considering it was a gift. We are very thankful, of course, but I don't think we owe it to them to not let my parents stay with us. I also think it's unfair since they will be 15 minutes from their grandchild and could see them every day, while if my parents stay where they live now, they will see our child a few times a month max. Am I the jerk? Edited to add, I of course discussed this with my wife before involving either of our parents. We were in an agreement prior to the conversation with her parents. Now, we are a bit nervous, her more so than me. We are also both women. We are a homosexual couple. I am the one carrying the child. I did not feel the need to mention that, but it seems to influence a lot of people's opinions based on who is the carrier. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot, but be aware that big gifts sometimes come with big strings attached. This is so awkward. I suspect you are right that the in-laws helped with the house to keep you near, thereby ensuring good access to your grandkids. Ironically, moving your parents into the house probably reduces their easy access to the grandkids. I mean, instead of you relying on the nearby grandparents to babysit, they will need to coordinate with the live-in grandparents. So it's not just the idea of you using the house in the way you want, it's that the way you want specifically undercuts the precise thing that they were hoping to achieve. That's got to be pretty rough on them. On second thought, I'm wondering if you were at least a little bit of a jerk. After all, it seems that you understood precisely why they made the gift. Did you not realize how this choice would undercut it? Comment 2. Not the idiot. If you're okay with it, and your wife is okay with it, and your parents are okay with it, that's it. Weird that the in-laws will shell out more money to strangers just on some weird principle here. Definitely seems like a control issue. The house they paid for. Having your parents move in would definitely piss off the in-laws, but it also sends a clear signal that they can't use their money to boss you around. Seems like a fight worth having. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments on my last post. It's been a hectic week, and I've got quite the update for you all. So, after the initial awkward conversation with my in-laws, things went from tense to outright explosive. My wife and I had another sit down with them to try and smooth things over. We explained how much it would mean for my parents to be involved in our child's life and the financial relief it would provide us. But my in-laws doubled down, saying they felt it was disrespectful to them for my parents to live in the house they helped pay for. My wife, who's always been the peacemaker, was torn. She loves her parents, but she also understands where I'm coming from. We've been together since college, and she knows how close I am to my parents. They've always supported us, even when we came out, which wasn't easy in the small rural town where I grew up. The next day, my father called me. He'd been offered early retirement with a decent package, and he was considering taking it. This would mean he wouldn't need to commute to work anymore, and they could stay in their own home. But he also mentioned that he and my mom were looking forward to being closer to us and the baby. Meanwhile, my wife's parents invited us over for dinner. It was supposed to be a peace offering, but halfway through the meal, my mother-in-law made a snide remark about how my parents were trying to freeload off their generosity. That's when my wife lost it. She stood up for me and my parents, saying that family is about more than money, and that my parents' offer to help with childcare was invaluable. The argument got heated, and my father-in-law let slip something that left us both stunned. Apparently, the down payment wasn't just a gift, it was also an investment. They had been planning to retire in a few years and sell their own house, expecting to move into our basement apartment. They wanted to be close to us and their future grandchild, but they also saw it as a way to downsize and save money. My wife and I were floored. We had no idea they had these plans and felt betrayed that they hadn't been upfront with us. The whole drive home, we were silent, each lost in our thoughts. The next day, my wife and I had a long talk. We decided that we needed to set boundaries with her parents. We appreciated their help, but we couldn't let them dictate our lives. We called my parents and told them the news about the in-laws' plans. My mom, ever the diplomat, suggested a compromise. They would stay in their own home, but come to stay with us for extended periods, helping with the baby while giving us some space. We thought we had everything figured out until yesterday. My wife's parents showed up unannounced, looking somber. They apologized for their behavior and the hidden agenda. They admitted they were scared of losing their closeness with us and the baby to my parents. It was a moment of vulnerability we hadn't seen from them before. But here's the twist. My mother-in-law, with tears in her eyes, confessed that she had been diagnosed with a health condition that would require her to have frequent treatments and possibly surgery. They had wanted to be close to us for support, but they were too proud to admit it. The news hit us like a ton of bricks. Suddenly, all the arguments about the house and living arrangements seemed so trivial. We assured them that we would be there for them, no matter what. My friend only wants my support, but dismisses my grief, so I cut her off and find comfort in others who value my feelings and help me heal. I'm a 31-year-old female, and my friend A is 33. We have known each other for 23 years, and I love her very much. But I would say we have drifted apart, and now she only messages me when she wants something. The last year has been really hard on me. My grandfather died of cancer. My best friend of 20 years ended our friendship abruptly, and I have had multiple seizures, sometimes back to back to back. Earlier this year, her dogs, Mud, died suddenly, and when it happened in August, I was there for her. I sent her a sympathy card, stayed up late with her on Skype just listening to her vent, and even got her an ornament of her dogs to give her some comfort. I did this several times, and even would randomly call her just to remind her that I love her and that I am here for her. I listened every time she recited the horrible story of how her dogs died, no matter how upset it made me. I now know where she was, when and how it happened, and could easily recite it by heart. I understand she was traumatized, which is why I feel awful. But here's the thing. A has never been the best pet owner. She never fixes her pets or takes them to the vet, but has money for things like plushies and comic books. And her dog had been sick for months. I begged her to take the dog to the vet, but she said she can't afford it. And then back in November, around Thanksgiving, I got a Skype call from my grandfather. He was 90 years old and dying of cancer. And although I only got 10 years with him, he lived in a third world country. I was so close to him. I had the worst Thanksgiving ever, and when he said goodbye, he even asked me to tell him it was okay to go. Last week, A called me and wished me a happy new year. She was late, but whatever. She asked me how I was, and I told her that I will be okay, but it's my first year without him in the last decade. She asked me if I was okay, and I said, not really, and that I am struggling. Here's where I might be the jerk, she said. Yeah, I know how you feel. My dog left a hole too, and proceeded to recount the way her dogs died yet again. I told her, yes, I know, but can we not talk about this again? I really need to vent, and it's not the same as losing a pet. I know she misses them, but I am grieving, and really just needed someone to listen to me. I know she isn't my therapist, but come on. And she told me that the pain of losing my grandfather was equal to the pain of losing my dog, because she was just as traumatized as I am. I lost it. I just lost it. I snapped at her. I don't care that your dogs died. I get it. They died. Can we focus on me for once? My grandfather is dead. And I broke down crying while she called me a jerk and hung up, leading to a barrage of texts calling me a heartless jerk. Was I though? I feel really bad and need a second opinion. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. I'm not a huge fan of comparing grief. Hers may be as acute for the dog as yours for your grandfather. My dad died, but when my dog goes, it will wreck me too. But the issue is holding space for you, and she sounds like an emotional vampire. Not holding space for you and then bringing it back to herself is empathy no-no number 1. Also, she should never be allowed to have a pet until she can afford care. I'm seriously not a fan of hers. Comment 2. Her grief about her pet may be greater than your grief for your grandfather, or not. It really doesn't matter. I don't think you're a heartless AH. You were unkind when she seemingly ignored your pain to talk about her own. I understand the frustration with her. She isn't interested or is unable to provide what you need. And that's probably her personality. Her follow-up texts. Yikes. I considered saying everyone sucks, but not the idiot. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support on my last post. I never expected to get so much feedback. So here's what happened since then. After a hung up on me, I was a mess. I cried for hours, feeling like the worst friend ever. But then, things took a turn I didn't see coming. A couple of days later, I got a message from our mutual friend, B. B and I have been tight since middle school, and she's always been the level-headed one in our group. She told me she needed to talk to me about A, and what she said next left me stunned. B revealed that A had been talking behind my back for months. She'd been telling people that I was overreacting about my grandfather's death and that I was just seeking attention. My heart sank. I couldn't believe A would do something like that, especially after all the times I'd been there for her. B said she felt guilty for not telling me sooner, but she didn't want to add to my stress. I was furious. I felt betrayed. How could A compare her loss to mine and then turn around and belittle my pain to others? I needed to confront her. I called A, and the conversation was explosive. She tried to deny it at first, but when I mentioned B, she caved. A admitted she was jealous of the sympathy I was getting. She said she felt like her own grief was being overshadowed. I was shocked. A and I had been through everything together. We'd supported each other through breakups, family drama, and all the highs and lows of growing up. I remembered the time when A's parents divorced, and I was the one who stayed up all night consoling her, or the time I helped her study for her finals when she was on the verge of failing. And now this? The argument escalated, and A dropped another bombshell. She confessed that she had been able to afford vet care for her dog all along. She'd been spending the money on collectibles instead, thinking the dog would just get better on its own. I was horrified. All those times I'd urged her to take the dog to the vet, she'd lied to my face. I felt like I didn't even know who A was anymore. The person I thought was my friend was someone who could lie, manipulate, and betray me. I told her I needed space and that I couldn't just brush this off. She tried to apologize, saying she was in a dark place and didn't mean to hurt me, but the damage was done. The fallout was immediate. Our friend group was divided. Some sided with A, saying everyone deals with grief differently. Others were on my side, outraged by her lies and betrayal. B was apologetic for not speaking up sooner and promised to support me no matter what. The past week has been a blur. I've been trying to process everything and figure out where to go from here. Losing my grandfather was hard enough, but losing a friend I've had for over 2 decades, that's a whole different kind of pain. I've been leaning on B and a few other friends for support. They've been amazing, helping me cope with not just my grandfather's death, but also the loss of my friendship with A. It's been a tough lesson in trust and who I can really count on. As for A, I haven't spoken to her since our fight. I've seen her posts on social media, acting like nothing's wrong, and it just makes me angry all over again. I don't know if I can ever forgive her. Right now, I'm just trying to focus on healing and moving forward. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.